Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So in this video I'm going to be looking at the Anbernic RG353P. Really looking forward to this one, it's such a lovely looking device. Without further ado, let's get it opened up and see what it's like. Okay guys, so the RG353P, it says in the box there, 5G Wi-Fi PC streaming online play, and interestingly enough it's a dual boot, Android and a Linux system. This is probably the first Anbernic device I've had where it's been boxed in such a way. It's usually a plain sort of white box, but this one looks really nice, and it's got some nice details all the way around it, and it just tells you what's in the box, charging cable and manual. It's got two different colours, the grey, the black transparent. The one on here is the sort of grey one, obviously a sneak preview there. It's not this one that I've got. So these are the stats. We've got a dual boot. It's got the RK3566 quad core 64-bit Cortex A55, main frequency up to 1.8 GHz. It's got a RAM of 2 gig, and yep, and it's got two memory cards included, one for the Linux side and one for basically adding all your ROMs. So it's also got a 3.5-inch IPS full touch screen, which is really cool, and a 640 by 480 resolution, which probably isn't great, but I guess for playing a lot of old retro style, that is probably adequate. It's got saying the battery would last up to 6 hours. I think it's probably closer to 3 to 4 to be honest, in my opinion, and that's all the sort of devices that it supports. Without further ado, let's get it opened. There's a little diagram on the box there as well. Just tells you all the buttons, which is kind of a self-explanatory. And this is what you're greeted to when you actually open the box. So before we actually look at the device, this is what's inside the box. You've got your instruction manual, you've actually got a screen saver cover thing. There was a memory card in here which I've now put in the device, and a charge cable, and you've got a usual sort of instruction manual which you can read through. It gives you a little bit of information that might be helpful for your device and how to actually use it. I like how it comes with this protective sort of rubber on top of it, just to protect the screen a little bit. I think that's quite a nice touch. Guys, just before I jump onto the device itself, I actually got a sort of carry case included with it. I didn't pay for it, it just came from Droids, which is a fantastic website. I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested on this device. A great company, I would highly recommend them. Anyway, it's quite a nice case. Not sure it's perfectly suited for this actual device, but it fits, it's fine. Okay, let's have a look at the actual device itself. As you can see, it doesn't look too dissimilar to some of the RG351Ps due to the fact we've got the dual thumbsticks here. They look quite nice, both clickable. You've got your usual D-pad, you've got a function button which is kind of a new to me, and this is actually really quite helpful. You've got your on-off switches here, and you've got your start and select buttons at the top here, and your usual A, B, X and Y, and they all have a nice sort of feel to them. And this, you can see the style of this, it's just slightly sort of transparent. I preferred this one to the sort of SNES style because in the UK the SNES style was not that colour, so I thought I'd go for this transparent colour, which I really like. You've got your headphone jack at the bottom, you've got your stereo speakers at the bottom here. You've also got, this is the Linux memory card, the internal, and you see it's the external. This is for all your ROMs that you'll probably add to. These are kind of probably not the best memory cards, so it's really up to you if you want to swap them. Personally, I never have any issue with them, but if you want to jump to the Android side, you actually remove this one on the left and it will jump into Android. Otherwise, leave them both in and you will go into the Linux system, which is probably the best way to play your games. It's quicker and easier to set up. But yeah, let's have a look at the other side. You can see you've got the L1, R1 and L2 and R2 buttons, and these feel fantastic. Actually, holding this in the hand like this is probably one of the best feeling handhelds I've actually played recently. It fits really well, it's not too heavy either, and it feels really good. It's very comfortable. I really like that part of it. It's fantastic so far. On the top here you've obviously got your volume button there. You've got, I think this is for external devices, and this one here is your charging slot. And in the middle here you have the HDMI out, some mini HDMI to, obviously you can put that onto your TV if you wish, and you've also got a reset button. You always wonder why they use that, but actually I've had to use that a couple of times to sort of reset the device because it's sort of stalled and crashed on a few sort of systems or games that I've tried to play on it. Okay guys, so the main competitor for me is the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, and you can see they are pretty similar size, similar designs, a little bit different layout I guess for some of these. And the screen size is pretty much identical, and sort of power of this Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is pretty much the same. I think the Anbernic device is slightly more powerful, but they play pretty much the same sort of stuff, although the Retroid Pocket does not have a dual boot system. It's just merely Android, and it's a lot harder to set up, whereas the Anbernic, you can actually use Linux, and it's a lot easier to sort of pick up and play. Plus it does have some included ROMs. Obviously that's a bit dodgy, but it does have about 2,000 to 3,000 ROMs included already with the device and the memory card. So if you just really want to pick up and play, this is probably preferable to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, because that does not have any ROMs included. Well, it didn't, at least with my handheld that I purchased. Okay guys, so if you've got the two memory cards clicked in, you will obviously jump to the Linux system. If you hold down the on sort of standby button, it will start to power up. It does take a little while to power up. I'll just do this in real time so you can see. It does seem a little bit sluggish to actually power up, especially compared to some of the other devices. Does perform really well, just a sort of sneak peek there, but it does take a while to load up for some reason. But anyway, while that's loading up, I'll sort of drop in the folder structure, which is in the memory card on the right here, and what you would expect. And there are a huge list of games that you could potentially add. There's a lot of different systems. It's probably the biggest list of systems I've ever seen on a memory card. So hopefully they'll all be compatible, but I've not added ROMs to all of them, just a select few for now to just sort of get some testing purposes for this video. But you can see the potential is pretty large to add even more sort of games and systems, which is fantastic. So anyway, so what we've got here, we can see it's already set up. There are games already included. I've also added my own. It's fairly easy, just drop your ROMs into the folders that we've just seen. But all the BIOSes and stuff are already included, so it's pretty easy to get started. Obviously once you've added your own ROMs, again you need to go to the start button here and do game settings and update game lists, and that will refresh all the lists and add your games that you've added. You can also set up your screensaver account by scrape. If you go on here and you can set up an account, you need to go into the screensaver.fr I think it is, and create yourself an account, and then you can sort of add your details down the bottom here, and you can then scrape your sort of art, box art and stuff for all the games you added. It's really up to you if you want to do that or not. It does add a nice sort of look to it. You can see there's the usual settings in here, which we'll not cover too much of. What I want to do is see how this game system actually performs. But yeah, let's sort of jump into the first one, and I'll do something straightforward like Final Burn Neo, and it tells you in the bottom here how many games we've got. Obviously the screen isn't the highest resolution, but for a lot of these games it will be suffice until you maybe reach some of the higher end stuff, and it may not look as great as you would expect, especially if you're comparing it to the RG353P. But compare it to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, it's pretty much identical. Now let's have a bash at Air Assault. It's not really my favourite genre, but it sounds really good and looks nice. Now something that you'll probably notice is the sound can vary a little bit. Sometimes it sounds fantastic and other times it doesn't. Sort of turn that down slightly. So just for the point, so I can talk now. So if you want to sort of jump into RetroArch, you can press the function button, which is down here, and then you can sort of mess about with things at your content. That's quite important. It might vary depending on what system you're actually playing. You might see a different sort of screen, like PSPP for example, if you're playing PSP. But obviously you've got loads of options in here that you would normally see in RetroArch. But if you actually want to quit the game quickly, you can obviously do it this way as well, by closing content and quitting RetroArch. But to quickly do it, just hold the function button and press start, like that, and it will reset back to the main screen. That's the quickest way of actually doing that. And there's various different things. The function button, you can press the function button and the top button here, and that loads a save state, or saving the save state is the opposite side over here. So function on that one, and it will save your game for you, and then to load it in again you press function and L1. So that's quite cool. There's a few other shortcuts as well. They are mentioned in the manual, but what we'll do is now we'll move on to the next sort of platform here. So B goes back and A is to confirm. You can obviously swap that about as well if you sort of prefer. What we'll do is jump into MAME and we'll play another arcade style game. Now the only thing I suppose I don't like is that there's quite large bezels around the screen here. I don't really think they need to be that large, but yeah, it's a little bit annoying. So let's have a bash at Aliens. It's usually a good blast to play through it. And the screen's actually really nice for the resolution of this. For most games it'll be absolutely fine, you won't really notice any big deal. And it's definitely suffice. It's not going to be perfect for maybe some other things like PSP. The size of the screen isn't perfect for that, for example, and maybe Game Boy Advanced, and it sort of squashes the screen a little bit. But for a lot of formats this will be absolutely fine. Sort of 4:3 ratio. It's a fantastic game. Crazy obviously, but it's fantastic. Obviously the film is a classic. Don't remember that alien being in the film. Okay guys, so moving on to something quite interesting, which is vertical arcade. Obviously there was a lot of arcade games that played with a vertical sort of ratio, and obviously playing a lot of these handhelds, it's just a very sort of thin screen, which we've seen in the first game that I played. But you could play that game using this option here. I'm not going to choose that game, I'll choose a different one, and you'll see how it's actually playing. Basically you hold the handheld like this, you use this to manoeuvre and these buttons to fire. Obviously use the select button and start, and as you can see here you've got the aspect ratio perfect on the handheld, and it's actually quite comfortable to hold as well. You can see it's perfect, so it's going full length of the actual handheld and works brilliantly. So if you've got a lot of games like that, then you can just dump them into the folder and play them this way. It actually works really well, and this sort of handheld's quite light, so it's not going to be too much of a burden to actually hold. But I think that's a really nice touch. I really like that option on this little handheld, and it'll certainly give a great aspect to playing these fantastic shoot 'em up games. Okay, we've got the Capcom systems 1, 2 and 3. I'm not going to play through all of them. I think they'll play absolutely fine. I'll just pick one game and we'll sort of play through that briefly, just to see it actually performing. Let's just turn the sound up a bit for this one, and I won't talk too much. Ah, we're going to get beat here. Could feel it coming. So as you can see here guys, you can see the volume on the left hand side of the screen. You don't actually see that in game unfortunately, which is a bit of a pain. So you don't really know what level you're at, apart from obviously just using your own ears. But you can see you can actually change the system options, obviously the emulator that it runs by up the top. Sometimes some games may run better on different emulators, and that's your option for arcade. It's the same for all the systems. You may need to jump between a few. For example, when we get to N64, that's obviously quite apparent that some of the emulators don't work as well as others. But yeah, just keep that in mind. You can obviously mess about with shaders, all sorts of things as well, advanced game options if you want to sort of see a slightly smoother game. It's really a personal choice. I'm not going to tell you how to actually fix that. It's up to yourself what you do with it. So Commodore 64, this is a nice addition and runs really well. Let's sort of jump into one of the games here. I've added a few of my old favourites. Okay, I think I've probably said that before on this channel, but this is definitely one of my all-time favourite Commodore 64 games. And it looks really good on this little handheld. Absolutely brilliant. Handles very well too. Okay, moving on, we've got Amiga. We'll maybe jump into one or two of these games. Yeah, we'll maybe quickly play Alien Breed. You see sometimes the sound does go all over the place. It's a little bit better. How ominous is that? Oops. I love this game. These games are absolutely fantastic to play through. Okay guys, I'm not going to play through every single game. I'll maybe just jump to some of the ones that are probably a little bit trickier. The PC Engine plays absolutely fine. There's no problem with these games. Same with the NES, Game Boy. For example, these all play really fine. There are some issues here and there. Sometimes I think you need to change the emulator. You might see the graphics are a little bit fuzzier than you think they should be. But they play all their usual stuff fine. But what I'm going to do now is jump to N64, which I've definitely had an issue playing the Linux side. It's not the greatest, to be honest, and I've tried through the different options. We'll sort of jump to Super Mario 64. Tried GoldenEye, actually seemed okay, but it had some control issues with it. Again, I think it's just a matter of spending some time trying to figure out the best control layout here. I mean, we've got all the right sticks, so it should be functional. Again, we've got a few different options to use here. You can see if look at Mario's eyes, look, the pit is pixelating a little bit, so it's not perfect. And there are a few other options that you can use here, but I found none of them were particularly perfect. However, the N64 games do work much better on the Android side, but I just thought I would quickly show you this before we show you Android side later on. So you can probably see, wait and we'll get past this part, you can see there's a lot of flickering going on here. Up there, which is a little bit of a nightmare scenario, to be honest. So it's pretty much unplayable. The gameplay's okay, but with all that sort of graphical flickering, it's just not one I'm going to be playing at all. But we'll jump out and we'll change the emulator just to show you the differences. So if you go into the sort of options, you can actually change the emulator that it's running. You can also change it by system or just by that particular game. And that's the one that we were running there, Parallel N64. But here are all your options. Now, I didn't really get much luck with any of them. Each one had their own issues. For example, we'll try this one. We'll maybe try the top one, MUPIN 64 Plus. So just select it, go back, and then we'll go back to Super Mario again and see what the differences are. You see, it does look a little bit better, even though I had a little bit of glitch in there. Okay, so let's have a look. I don't think there should be as much graphical glitching on this one, but the graphics do seem a little bit blockier perhaps. Oh, there is still glitching, you can see in the trees and the door as well. So it's still not perfect, but better than it actually was. But as I said, on the Android side, it definitely looked and performed a lot better than you see here. Okay, we'll have a quick look at Game Boy Advance and see how that performs. See, it doesn't quite use the full screen. There are some borders, which you'll probably see in quite a few different systems, due to the size of that screen, obviously. Oh, press the wrong button. This sounds and looks fantastic on here. I've never actually played this version before. interesting. Okay, you've obviously got the option of Nintendo DS. Not sure this is the ideal way of playing these games, but you can sort of switch between the screens, which is quite good. I'll maybe pick one of these games so they can see it in action. And it seems to be pretty decent, to be honest. It's saying you've got the two screens, but you can switch between the different options by using the shoulder buttons. If you press that one once, you can have that view or that view. And you do the game same, you can have the full screen view by pressing the right sort of trigger there. And you can just switch between the two of them if you prefer. Do a little bit of both to get the sort of stylus, as you can see there on the screen. You just click in this and then click in the left thumbstick to touch screen to start the game. Probably need to do a little mix between all of them, to be honest. It's not ideal, but it's definitely playing okay. See if we can get that on full screen. No, there you go. It seems okay. Not sure this is a particularly great game though. Well, anyway, you get the point. It seems to be functional, and it seems to work pretty well, I think. Okay, so 3DO, happily to say this works really well. I've only got one game, which is Gex, but it works fantastically well. It's the best I've seen it on any of these handhelds, to be honest.
Lock and load, little lizard.
Love it. Yep, crazy humour. Anyway, let's get started on the actual game. This game seems to be playing a lot better than I can remember it in some of the other handhelds that I've tried it on. It sounds a lot better. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it actually sounds pretty decent for me. It's just a slight glitch in here in the sort of sound, but it's not bad. Pretty decent in my view. Ooh. Not quite perfect, but yeah, I think it's probably the best I've seen this play, to be honest. Pretty fun game to actually play too. Okay, we've also got some open board titles. I think these are like beat 'em up games of sorts. And I'll sort of jump in to play one of them just to give you an idea. This is Streets of Rage. This one is Streets of Rage Z. Return of the Hero. See, sometimes if you can hear the sound, it's not particularly great on some of the systems. You maybe need to ramp up a little bit. But it does seem to vary all over the place. This looks particularly good. Plays fantastically well. It's obviously a bit of a Streets of Rage mock-up style game. And it's decent enough, it's really good. Again, these are included in the actual device, not this particular one, but the others are. And if you just like your pick up and play games and don't want to make any effort, this handheld would be perfect for you. Obviously, if you compare it to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, there's no ROMs included. You're going to have to do a lot of the hard work yourself, and it does get very tedious to actually get somewhere with it. If you prefer to just pick up and play, this is perfect, ideal, and it feels great on the hand. Very comfortable indeed. I love the way it sort of curves, feels like a controller. It's really, really cool. It's definitely one of my favourite handhelds in the last year, apart from the RG552 obviously, but this is much, much more comfortable to play than the RG552. I think I would probably more likely come and play this first before the larger one. Depends what games you're playing obviously, because the resolution of the RG552 screen is much, much higher. And obviously it's a lot bigger too. Okay guys, I'm not going to be playing some of these games like Master System for example. They'll all play absolutely fine. There's no issues. Mega Drive and Game Gear and all sorts of things. Obviously I felt sometimes the screen this might not be ideally suited to some of these style games. It might be a little bit blocky. Just a word of warning, the sort of memory card that I got with it, the folders were a little bit mixed up for Game Gear and Master System. For example, in the Master System games were in the Game Gear folder, and I think the Game Gear games were in the Mega Drive or Genesis folder, so just something to be aware of. I've basically fixed that myself. by sort of dragging and dropping the folders into the right folders on my PC. But not sure if that's going to be the same for everyone, so I'm not going to go through it too much. But yeah, it was quite obvious to me they were the wrong games. But they all played anyway because they all used the same sort of emulator to actually play. So Mega CD, I've got a few games I might just jump into sort of one of them just to see how it performs. Let's try Sonic CD. You see, this seems absolutely fine. I don't think you'll find any problems with a lot of the main systems that have been emulated really well for the last sort of 5 to 10 years. These are all running perfectly fine. It's probably your higher end stuff that's probably still been tricky, and most likely still will be tricky for a while yet. Okay guys, Sega Saturn. And obviously there's a lot more games that we can be added to this. I'm most likely going to have to do a few videos on this little handheld because it's just going to take far too long to go through every single option that's out there. But I'm definitely going to be spending more time with this and making some more content with this little device because it's absolutely fantastic. Definitely worthwhile spending some time on it. And amazingly, the Saturn performance is really good. All by and large, the performance on the Linux side is absolutely brilliant, apart from N64. I found that for the most part it's preferable. There obviously are some better things on Android, for example, like you could perhaps play Wii and GameCube, PlayStation 2, PSP, but most games play better on the Linux side, and it's easier to actually use. Okay, obviously we're on Saturn, it's fantastic. This is one of the instances where nothing's happening with the game. Obviously I can press the on off buttons, but oh, I finally got somewhere, but I was almost going to press the reset button there because nothing was actually happening. As you can see, I can't move anything anyway. So unfortunately it has crashed. Thought I might show that because it's not a perfect handheld, and that's probably one of the reasons why this reset switch is here. Okay, so we're back here. Let's finally get going. I'm not really sure what happened there, to be honest. Sometimes it crashes, sometimes it's fine. It's not a regular occurrence, but I guess that's why that reset switch is there. The performance of this actually seems okay. I'm not sure it's going at full speed, to be honest, but it seems okay. Handles quite well. Definitely seen some systems struggling to play this, so this is actually quite pleasant. So I'm not sure it's going to play every Saturn game, for example. But I've also tried Knights as well, and it seems to be okay. Performs pretty well. Certainly the Saturn emulation has got better over the last few years, that's for sure. So these devices are a little bit faster and maybe more expensive, but they are performing better. Pity I'm not performing any better though. Okay, on to Dreamcast. Now hopefully that shouldn't be a massive issue because Dreamcast has been emulated pretty well in a number of devices. Let's have a look. Let's try Metropolis Street Racer. Okay, just a little bit of word of warning. Playing MSR, I would advise changing the control options and the settings if you want to play this game, because the default it just isn't particularly great. It's all over the place. So what I've done is, controller settings is set to type D, so that these buttons are the accelerator and brake, and the D-pad is the steering. Not ideal because you can obviously remap it if you see fit in the actual retro art, but this is the best way I've found, to be honest. And that's one of the reasons why I've chose this game to play, that radio, because some emulation or devices doesn't play the radio stations or the music, and as you can hear, this one does, and that means to me that this is working fantastically well. So already I'm really impressed. If you've never played this game and you love driving games, you really must try it. One of my all-time favourite games. Obviously it later became Project Gotham Racing on the Xbox, but this was the original. Did it get better? Hard to say, but this is fantastic. Okay, we've also got some Sharp X600, we've got Spectrum games, not really going to try some of these. Neo Geo, Arcade Same, they're all fine. Neo Geo Pocket, they all play fine. PlayStation, we can have a quick bash, I guess, at something. Brings back memories playing this on the PlayStation. Absolutely fantastic little game. Obviously spawned a lot of sequels after that and a lot of remakes and stuff, but wow, such an amazing game. Yeah, absolutely. It's not quite perfect. You can see there's a little bit of glitching here and there, but I guess that's probably what it was like in the original. You can probably spend some time messing about with that and sort of fixing it up in the background and RetroArch. Oh, yeah, don't get lost. Yeah, did I really miss this game? I don't know. Okay, last before we actually move on to the Android side briefly, we're going to have a look at PSP Portable. And we'll have a look at a few games running. Some games run particularly well. Let's have a look at Outrun, for example. And I think what I've got is make sure it's probably on frame skip. And a frame skip of 1. God of War probably a frame skip of 2, but yeah, some of the games run absolutely fine. Others will probably be a wee bit iffy, like God of War. Well, let's have a look at this anyway. Obviously the screen size is not perfect for this. You can see it looks absolutely fine, runs fine. Maybe put the sound up a little bit here. Again, like I say, make sure you probably have the frame script on for this. Ideally, it's going to differ from game to game, but for the best part of the PSP plays absolutely fine, and this is the Linux side, which is fantastic, so there's no massive need to go to the Android side to play PSP games. I'm all over the road. You can see the screen is a little bit squashed. It's obviously not ideal. The ratio isn't quite perfect. So if you can put up with that, then this is actually pretty good for PSP. Bad. I don't drive like this in real life, honest. Let's maybe jump it. Oh yeah, when you press the function button, it jumps, or press that, it jumps into the PSPP background where you can change your settings. Oops. Yeah, you can change your settings in there and sort of add the frame skip at that point. So let's try God of War and show you the actual performance and what it's actually like. I think I've got a save, so what I'll show you how to actually do some save. So you press the function button, it brings up this settings screen. You can see in the settings here, I've got the frame skip to actual 2 and auto frame skip. Say that will probably change per game. I wouldn't put it any higher. Any lower it might not work so well. But obviously if you've got some save states, this would be the place to come. You can see I don't have any, obviously it didn't work last time. Well, let's just get the game started and I'll show you the performance. You see, as usual, the performance is probably a little bit all over the place. Yeah, it's probably barely playable. Now, I did play it on the Android side as well, but it's not really a heck of a lot better, to be honest. Obviously, this game is pretty much like this in a lot of systems. It's barely playable. This ain't bad, but yeah, I've seen it run better. Okay guys, so that's the RG353P on the Linux side. I'm going to jump straight to the Android system just for a brief look at how things are on that side. What you need to do is take this memory card out here on the left hand side here and then reset the machine and it will boot into the Android side. I'm going to do that right now. Okay guys, so now this is the Android side. Obviously we can now use the touchscreen function. You can also obviously connect to the Wi-Fi as well if you've got that. And obviously you can use this touchscreen, is absolutely perfect. It works really well, no problem at all. Some of the functions might change slightly, obviously what to get in and out of sort of apps, for example. But you've got the PlayStation 2 app up here, which you can do. I'll try and play a game from it. It's not easy. There's no Google Play, unfortunately, but you can download that from APK Pure, for example, or other sites. You've obviously got Chrome. You can do some searching, get some things that you might need. You've got the Dolphin emulator here, which is obviously for your Wii and GameCube, which we'll try a little bit. You've got obviously your PlayStation apps and other sort of apps here that you can actually use. Now I'm not sure I'm going to try many of them. You've obviously got your PSP app here as well. I'm not really sure the point of going through the setup here for all of them. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense when things work absolutely brilliantly on the Linux side. Everything apart from obviously N64, which I'll do here and show you can actually obviously add your ROMs into this library here. You just really press that and refresh ROMs and obviously point it to the right folder that you've got your ROMs in. Pretty straightforward stuff really. What you need to do is, let's start a game and we'll show you the game's actually working a little bit better in here. Let's resume. Okay, so that's obviously in the middle of the game. You can see Cruising USA is working really well. The controller setup's a little bit strange. Obviously we'd need to spend some time changing that. I've got the left trigger as the accelerator and controlling using this left thumbstick. Not ideal, but it's playing really well. So that's the most impressive thing I think here. So obviously if you're going to play N64, this is probably the way to play it. It also plays GoldenEye pretty well as well. But again, you need to probably mess about with the control setup because it's not perfect. You want to exit, just press the function button and exit, or you can obviously drag up and just do the Android style stuff. Also, what else we're going to look at, I've downloaded a couple apps that we can sort of have a look at and how they actually perform. I'm not going to get into this in huge detail because I don't really see the point, to be honest. So you can obviously stream for your PC. You can use the Moonlight app to stream from your PC. You obviously need a pretty decent PC to be able to do that. I'm not going to do that in this video. Maybe in a future one I will try it, but it's obviously touting it on the box that it's got the streaming online play function that you can actually use if you've got your 5G Wi-Fi set up. And what we'll do is we'll have a look at some of the games running on Dolphin. I've got a few sort of titles here. Let's sort of jump into Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube. And again, you need to sort of mess about the settings to get the on-screen layout away. And obviously set up this as the classic controller rather than the GameCube controller, and it should work perfectly fine. Unfortunately it's not running at full speed. You can probably see the frames per second a little bit on the top there, maybe not. I'll sort of tell you as it goes, but it does dip all over the place. You can hear it's kind of struggling a little bit. Let's play the iconic character for Soul Calibur 2 on the Nintendo GameCube. You see, I think you're obviously probably better playing the Dreamcast version because it just seems to stutter all over the place. We're at 25-30 frames per second. Not ideal. Yep, not perfect at all. Yeah, we're all over the place with our frames per second, unfortunately. So it's barely playable, but you could potentially mess about with the settings and get it to some kind of acceptable level, but for me that's just getting really tedious. Let's put the sound down a little bit. Yeah, sort of messing about with all that is kind of tedious sometimes. If you've got the patience, then why not, but I don't know, we're at really low frames per second here. Not good. Okay, I'm not even going to bother with Metroid Prime. I'm sure that'll be the same, and same with Zelda, was kind of jumping and not great performing. I've got a few Wii games here. A lot of these are sort of easy to run stuff like Cave Story. Super Paper Mario, let's have a bash at that. Let's see if we can jump to the save point. Load. You can see in here it's obviously struggling again with the frame rate. If I recall, the actual Retroid Pocket 2 Plus was better performing with some of these games. It wasn't perfect either, right enough, but the performance was better for Wii and GameCube. But I reckon that's probably because I used a slightly sort of more advanced Dolphin app. I think that's probably one of the issues here. So I may do that in a later video and see if we can get the performance to be a lot better. But you can hear it's kind of a stuttering all over the place and it's kind of unplayable. So it's not ideal. Again, that's the same. So what we're going to do now is maybe have a look at some of these apps that I've got. Okay guys, now trying Sonic CD. This is obviously the app version. You can use touchscreen if you want. As you can see, it's obviously the app version. Okay, so you see the on-screen controls. You can actually get rid of them. I'll just sort of prove that it's actually the Sonic app that's running. It probably runs better than the Mega CD version, to be honest. It might even look slightly better as well. Certainly seems faster, maybe it's just me. Right, it seems fine. You can obviously download loads of apps. That's the whole point, I guess, of the Android side and the PC online playing, if that's what you're into. Personally, I prefer playing on the Linux side, to be honest with you. It's so much easier and less hassle to actually play. Okay, this is obviously Metroid Prime game. It was another Metroid remake, I think it was entitled. That's a really decent version too. The screen looks kinda small right enough. It doesn't seem to be popping as I've seen it on other devices. But it's absolutely perfectly playable on this app though. And on this device. Oh, better not waste all these rockets there. Okay guys, so last but not least is the PlayStation 2. As you can see here, this is Grand Theft Auto playing, and it's really struggling. Obviously the frame rates are absolutely horrendous. Now I'm not saying every PlayStation 2 game will be like this, but I wouldn't hold up a lot of hope, especially playing with the apps that are included. You may get better luck if you actually update the apps to the latest version. Again, I think that's what I did with the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. It sort of upped the... It sort of made some of the games a little bit more playable. Same with the sort of Dolphin app. If you get the latest version for that, you might get better luck playing the games. But don't hold your hopes up actually playing some of these games. You might get lucky, you might not. I don't think these are really meant to be playing these high-end games just yet. I think we're still quite a little bit way off. If you want to be playing these games, you're probably going to have to spend maybe, I don't know, £500 to £1,000 or even more to get some decent emulation out of them. Because as it stands, these devices are just not quite cut out for it, sadly. Okay, so this is Ridge Racer on the PSP. You can see it's a little bit squashed, but it handles absolutely brilliantly and plays well. And this is on the Linux side. Obviously you can play it on the Android side as well. So my overall thoughts on this device, I absolutely love it. It is around about £150, so it might be a little bit more pricier than your RG351Ps, for example, but for the device you're getting a really decent performance in a lot of different systems out there. Obviously you're still going to struggle for your higher end stuff like PlayStation 2, GameCube and Wii. You might get some joy out of it, but you're going to have to spend a lot of time tinkering about, and probably you might not even get the best performance anyway. But if you're wanting to play some of the other stuff, this is one of the best devices I've played in the last couple of years. It's absolutely fantastic. I would rate it above the Retroid Pocket 2. I just think it's so much more comfortable in the hand, easier to set up. The fact that you can play all this through the Linux system so easily, it's brilliant. Out the box, it's really, really good without any really tinkering required, which is probably ideal for a lot of people out there. If you don't mind tinkering, then maybe the Retroid Pocket 2 would be the better one for you. But anyway guys, thanks for watching the video. Please like, subscribe, catch you in the next one. I'm sure we'll do a lot more videos on this upcoming and go delve a little bit deeper into some of the different formats out there. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.